Let us begin at the door that most avoid, because it offends human pride. You do not enter the kingdom by thinking better. You enter by yielding. Whatever cleverness you have amassed, whatever stack of affirmations you can recite at speed, whatever positivity you can paste over yesterday's sorrow, lay it down here. Stop. Stop. The kingdom is not reached by a brighter thought, but by the end of the thinker. Stillness is not an achievement of mind. It is what remains when the will bows out and presence stands revealed. You know the modern habit. When life hurts, we reach for mental tools. We script new stories. We force optimism. We shout down the night with phrases we hope the universe cannot refuse. And then the pulse is still quick. The heart is still restless. The old fear still peeks around the corner and asks if we're finished yet. The master asked, who by taking thought can add 1 cubit to his stature? Who by taking thought can make 1 hair white or black? If you cannot add an inch or turn a hair, how shall you push back a storm with syllables? My peace I give unto you, not as the world giveth. Peace is not a manipulated mood. It is the presence that is. Here is our firm premise, and it must be firm, or you will wobble through the remainder. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. This is not humility theater. It is spiritual law. As long as you believe there is power in a good thought, you are far from the kingdom of heaven. Thought is not power. Mind is not a God. God is one. Therefore, there are not 2 powers, not the power of fear versus the power of faith, not the power of disease versus the power of affirmation. 1 power, 1 presence, 1 life, where you rest in that one. Appearances lose their threat because they lose their imagined authority. The branch does not bear fruit by screwing up its courage. It abides in the vine. It is not by might nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. So I tell you plainly, I am not handing you another method to extract outcomes. We are not here to bargain with the infinite, nor to sharpen mental tools. We are here to consent to what already is. God is. That is the entire gospel condensed to breath, and to help you consent, not perform, not strive, but consent. I will show you 3 doorways into stillness where grace is recognized and received. Not a technique, not a formula, but 3 ways the human will can release its grip and the presence can announce itself. I am, and beside me there is none else. Be still and know that I am God. In this hour, we will first lay the axe to the root of mental power. We will establish clearly the oneness of God. We will arrest vain repetition so that prayer begins where chatter ends. Then, gently and directly, we will pass through 3 progressive doorways. Your acknowledged inadequacy, the 2-word treatment God is, and quiet, listening receptivity. We will pause for a few minutes of guided entry, from noise to presence, so you may taste for yourself what hours of thought have never given you. And before we close this series, I will invite you to a 7-day yielding discipline without formula to break the habit of self-effort and to reopen the heart to grace. Begin now, in your seat, not with words, but with consent. I can of my own self do nothing. Father, thou knowest. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want not to purchase supply, but to rest in the shepherding that already is. The kingdom of God is within you. You can't see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, smell it, or think it into being. You can only cease from your own works and find that it is. Stop. Let your inner hands open. God is one. God is. In that yielding, the door is already ajar. Now let me be as plain as the prophets and as kind as a shepherd. What I am saying to you is the letter. What you must receive is the Spirit. The apostle said, the letter killeth, but the Spirit giveth life. Explanations, even holy ones, address the mind. They are a lamp to the threshold, not the door itself. The kingdom does not open to the well-explained. It opens to the yielded. You can memorize every phrase, diagram, every doctrine, quote every seer that will prepare you. Yes, prepare the soil of attention, but only the rain of realized presence causes the seed to live. Your safety is not in what you understand about God. Your safety is in God. God is. That is spirit. Everything else we say about it is letter. Let me press you lovingly with questions that will not flatter the mind. If thought were power, why can you not, by thinking, dissolve the grief that visits you in the night? If thought were power, why can you not, by thinking, unsay the words you wish you had never spoken, or unremember the bruise of yesterday? Who by taking thought can add a cubit to his stature? Who by taking thought can make one hair white or black? If you cannot stretch a bone or reverse a hair, why place your faith in the same instrument to rearrange the universe? As long as you believe there is power in a good thought, you are far from the kingdom of heaven. Thought is not power. God is power. Therefore, there is only one power. God is one. This class, this hour, will not hand you a formula to make things happen. It will not teach you to persuade the infinite or coerce appearances. It will not sharpen the mind into a subtler weapon. No, it will lead you to the threshold, draw your attention to the presence that already is, and then it will say, as the Master said to the storm, peace, be still. Stop, stop, close the lips. Hold the teeth together if you must until the tongue learns reverence. Be still and know that I am God. That knowing is not an idea. It is spirit. It is not a visualization. It is realization. But you ask, and rightly, what then do I do practically when I refuse techniques and yet I need help? How do I meet the pain, the bill, the diagnosis, the argument at the kitchen table? Hear this. The first practical is not to add a better statement. It is to remove a false premise. The false premise is that there are many powers. Your fear on one side, your faith on the other. Your thought on one side, the problem on the other. Erase that geometry. There are not two. God is one. And if God is one, then neither fear, nor memory, nor symptom, nor circumstance holds independent force. You do not have to fight them. You have to stop anointing them. So the first act is not an act at all. It is a ceasing. Cease from your own works. Refuse the inner chatter that rushes to fix, to bargain, to recite. Let your confession be only this. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. And then turn without words, turn without images into that quiet within where the shepherd already leads and where the still waters already are. Your mind cannot carry you across this threshold. It can only bring you to it and bow. Teaching prepares the bow. Spirit is the crossing. We will move from here to the core, the recognition of one power. That recognition does not add anything. It subtracts illusion. When the premise of two is gone, battle ceases. And in that cessation, the presence reveals itself as harmony, not by might, not by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. In that spirit, you will find that what explanations could not do, grace accomplishes without strain. Now, let us plant our feet on rock and not on sand. God is one. God is power. Therefore, there is only one power. If you accept one power, you cannot also accept a second called disease, fear, circumstance, or what the old books called mortal mind. A house divided against itself cannot stand, and the kingdom of God is not a divided house. The kingdom does not meet hate with love as two gladiators in an arena. The kingdom reveals the nothingness of anything pretending to stand apart from God. As long as you set one power to fight another power, you are far from the kingdom, because you have already conceded two. God is one. Let me speak plainly, because we are done with comfort that cripples. As long as you believe there is power in a good thought, you are still in dualism. You are trying to fight a power with a power to throw a bright pebble at a shadow and expect the sun to rise. Thought is not power. Mind is not a god. If thought could heal, you would have healed by now. Who, by taking thought, has reversed the night of grief into a morning of resurrection? Who, by taking thought, has unknotted the anxious stomach or straightened the back bowed under years of care? The master asks, who, by taking thought, can add a cubit to his stature? Then why do you persist in making thought your savior? God is the savior. God is... There is a subtle trap here, too polite for some of you to notice. Affirmations endless, anxious, polished, often keep the problem intact by arguing with it. In arguing, you concede its reality, and in conceding, you anoint your mind as judge and doer. You put the mind on the bench and the problem at the bar, and then you try the case with words. But who gave the mind that robe? Who made you a judge over phantoms? The letter can name the truth, but the mind cannot do the works. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. If you believe your affirmation is doing something, you have put yourself on the throne, and you will bear the weight of a throne you cannot hold. So I say to you with the compassion of a shepherd and the certainty of a prophet, stop, stop. Let the debate end. Let the gavel fall on silence. Replace 100 syllables with 2 words that are not a weapon but a surrender. God is. Do not use it to get anything. Let it end the argument. God is, therefore I need not contend. God is, therefore I need not supplement God with my cleverness. God is, therefore whatever appears as a second power has no law, no life, no cause, no substance. God is one. When that is accepted not as a philosophy but as the atmosphere of your being, you will discover the shift. Your work is no longer coercion. It is receptivity. Prayer ceases to be a project and becomes a listening. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and imagine. Not be still and engineer. Be still and know. Acquaint now thyself with him and be at peace. In that peace, grace appears of its own accord, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Harmony does not arrive on the wheels of your insistence. It dawns where insistence has grown quiet. And what are the appearances? Fear will knock. Symptoms will speak in loud voices. Memory will parade its proofs. Do not meet them as powers. Do not load your sling with mental stones. Meet them as shadows meeting the sun. If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be full of light. Single on one, single on is. You cannot be single and argue. You cannot be single and strive. You can only yield. And in the yielding, the one reveals itself as all. Therefore, take this as your core revelation and your immediate practice. Accept one power. Refuse the seduction of mental weapons. Let God is close, the mouth of lions and the mouth of your own bustling mind. Then turn inward, not to think, but to consent. Father, thou doest the works. In that consent, the kingdom that cannot be divided stands revealed not as something you made, but as what already and always is. Stop. Stop. This is the first movement of prayer. Not a speech, not a bargain, not a rehearsal of outcomes. Stop the inner talking. Stop the clever arranging. Stop the performance. When ye pray, use not vain repetitions as the heathen do. The mind will say, but I must say something or nothing will happen. That is the lie to be unmasked. That is the noise to be silenced. Harmony does not come by much speaking. It comes where speaking ceases and listening begins. Be still and know that I am God. I know the reflex. The moment pressure rises, the tongue loosens. Words multiply. Phrases become charms. Syllables become amulets. And you begin to tell God who God is and what God should do with his universe. Stop. Stop. The more you instruct, the more you enthrone the personal doer. The more you repeat, the more you fear your silence. But God is not moved by your recital. God is. True prayer puts you on the receiving end of God, not the instructing end. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Begin their silence before him, not silence as a technique, but silence as reverence, as consent. Let us be practical, for the body loves to help the soul when invited. Close the lips. Hold the teeth gently together until the tongue remembers humility. Unclench the jaw. Let the tongue rest heavy, quiet, as if it had fallen asleep in the lap of God. Soften the eyes behind the lids. Let the shoulders drop their armor. Allow a breath to come and go without coaching it. Do not perform prayer. Cease from your own works. If a sentence rises, let it be only this, and let it fall as soon as it has done its work. God is. Not to obtain, not to persuade, only to end the argument. Then, no more. Be still. Be very still. Do not be surprised that the mind resists. It feels homeless without a project, unsafe without a technique, unemployed without a speech. It was trained to think that outcomes come by effort, that God must be awakened by noise. Smile at it as you would at a frightened child and say, peace, be still. Do not fight the thoughts. That is another form of repetition. Simply refuse to feed them. Give them no audience. Let them pass as birds across a vast sky, leaving no tracks. The beginning of spiritual power is the end of mental noise. Not the end of mind's capacity in its proper place, but the end of mind's usurpation of the throne. You ask, if I do not speak, if I do not affirm, what is my part? Your part is surrender. Your part is receptivity. Your part is to take the shoes from off your feet, for the place whereon you stand is holy ground. Attend as a servant waiting for a bell, as a lamb listening for the shepherd's footfall. My sheep hear my voice. Hearing is not talking. Hearing is not inventing a reply before the sentence is finished. Hearing is consent to another's presence, another's initiative, another's wisdom. The Father within me doeth the works. Let your prayer become a posture rather than a program. Let it be the inward bow that says, without words, I can of my own self do nothing. Not as a ritual, not as a token of false modesty, but as the gateway to grace. When the lips are quiet and the heart is not arguing, you will notice the subtle shift. The government is no longer on your shoulders. There is a hush. In that hush, the kingdom announces itself, not with trumpet and spectacle, but as a still, small voice that needs no syllables and uses none. You can't see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, smell it, or think it into being. You can only yield and find that it is. This is the threshold of our first doorway, and do not mistake it for a sentence to recite. The doorway is not a statement. It is the surrender of speech, outer and inner. It is the holy refusal to keep telling, explaining, repeating. It is the courageous pause in which you trust that God is one, God is here, God is enough. Start there. Stop, be still, and know. And in that knowing, without your help, without your plan, the works are done by the presence that forever is. Now here is the first doorway, and it is contrarian to the last fiber of the ego. Be very firm in your understanding of your inadequacy, not your moral unworthiness. No such condemnation is in God, but your spiritual helplessness as a personal doer. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. That sentence, rejected by the proud, is freedom to the humble, freedom from strain, freedom from the nightmare of authorship, freedom from nights rehearsing speeches to storms that will not hear. The ego says, I can fix this. The mystic replies, that sentence is precisely why I suffer, for I have enthroned myself where only God belongs. As long as you accept the premise that you are the cause, you must also accept the truth that you are the effect. And effects do not rest. They rush and they defend. They patch and they fear. But listen to the prophets. Not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. That removes the strain. It removes the theater of self-improvement in the place where only grace operates. Be very firm in your understanding that mental brightness, emotional courage, or a library of holy sayings cannot produce spiritual harmony. Harmony arrives in the absence of a second power. Harmony arrives where the false doer bows out and the one doer is recognized. Let us be very practical. Name quietly, inwardly, one place where you have been trying to think your way into peace. One, is it a body story, murmuring in the night? Is it a relationship, taut as a wire? Is it a bill on the table, a dread in the chest, a habit that wakes before you do? Name it. Now, without embroidery, relinquish authorship. Turn from the throne you built for the mind and say within, Father, I release this from my hands. I can of my own self do nothing, not by might, nor by power. Let the words be few. Let the bow be deep. Do not ask for an outcome. Consent to the presence. God is. Do not confuse this yielding with passivity. Passivity is the dullness of a soul that has quit. Surrender is the aliveness of a soul that has returned the government to its rightful king. In surrender, you do not abandon life. You abandon the impostor who tried to live it for God. In surrender, you do not stop acting. You stop initiating from fear. Action may arise, gentle, clear, unspectacular, effective, but it will not be born of your anxiety. It will be the shepherd's nudge recognized by a lamb that has ceased to bleed instructions. It is God who worketh in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. That is not passivity. That is priesthood, your life becoming an altar where grace does its own work. You may say, but if I do nothing, will anything be done? Who by taking thought can add a cubit to his stature? Who by taking thought can still a sea? The master slept, and the storm met its lord. He did not marshal rhetoric. He rested in sonship and said, "Peace, be still." That is not apathy. That is authority, and authority is born of oneness. The branch does not strive to be sap. It abides. The moment you stop pretending you are the power, the sap reveals itself as life through you. My grace is sufficient for thee. Now notice the atmosphere when the doer is laid down. Silence is no longer a void to be hurried through. It is expectancy. It is the stillness of a womb, not the vacancy of a tomb. Be still and know, not be still and calculate, not be still and visualize. Be still and know that I am God. In that receptivity, your very breath becomes a listening. You need not adorn it. You cannot see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, smell it, or think it into being. But you can yield, and in yielding, you find that it is. So practice this doorway through the day in small, honest turns. Each time you catch the mind drafting strategies, stop, stop. Say inwardly, I can of my own self do nothing. Then God is. Fall again into the quiet where authorship is surrendered. 5 seconds will do more than 5 pages of argument. What follows belongs to grace. You do not manage grace. You recognize it, and the recognition dawns without your help, without your schedule, where inadequacy is not a shame, but the very door by which the kingdom enters. Now that you have let the personal doer fall from the throne, let me place in your empty hands a gift that is not a tool, but a bell to silence. God is. 2 words, not a charm, not a lever, not a bargaining chip. It is the end of the argument, the end of the debate with shadows, the end of the courtroom where your mind is judge and fear is witness. God is. When this is spoken rightly, even once, it is enough to close the lips of the accuser within and without. Do not mistake this for an affirmation to get something. As long as you believe there is power in a good thought, you are far from the kingdom. Thought is not power. God is power. God is one. I am that I am, said the voice in the bush that burned and was not consumed. Before Abraham was, I am, said the Master. In him we live and move and have our being, sang the apostle. This is does not await your certificate. It is the fact beneath facts, the being, beneath all being. You can't see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, smell it, or think it, yet it is. And when you consent to that isness, the winds quiet without your orders. Here is how you may use this holy poverty of words. Sit or stand as you are. Close the lips. Let the tongue rest. Allow the shoulders to unclasp like armor put back on its peg. Then, with no push whatsoever, let the phrase arise, God is. Once, let it drop into the heart like a stone, into a still pool. Wait, listen, not for a voice, but for the hush. Again, God is. 6 times, 8, 10, at the most, between each space wide enough for a lamb to hear the shepherd's footfall. Do not build emotion. Do not work yourself into a lather of holiness. You are not stirring syrup. You are yielding attention. Each God is closes, not opens, the mouth of thought. Each God is dismisses a second power from the room. God is a bow. If the mind rushes in to assist, yes, God is, and therefore this will happen, and that symptom will vanish. Stop it with a smile. You do not need the footnotes. God is. That is all. If fear messes for airtime, if the body makes a speech, if memory parades its evidence, refuse the testimony. Take no thought for your life, said the teacher. Not because life is neglected, but because life is God's self-expression, not your project. God is. And therefore the presence needs no commentary. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. Not an argument, an atmosphere. Do not race through the phrase like a child swallowing medicine. Let it be the bell that sends you to silence, not the drum that keeps you marching. God is, and then listen. God is, and then yield. God is, and then cease from your own works. In that hush, you will find that you have stopped describing your problem. Why? Because the one before whom you stand does not need a report. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask. The telling was for the mind. The stillness is for grace. This is the two-word treatment. Use it not to bring God, but to let go of not God. Use it not to start prayer, but to end speech. 6 to 10 repetitions. Unhurried, spaced with honest waiting until even the 2 words are too many. Then the next doorway opens of itself. Be still and know. Not be still and visualize. Not be still and plan. The words have done their holy work when they have carried you to the wordless. God is, and that is all. Now the third doorway opens of itself when the second has become too many words. Receptivity. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and visualize. Not be still and paint pictures upon the mind. Not be still and create a trance. Stillness is not a vacant room. It is a living temple. It is not a mental blank. It is conscious receptivity to the one who is. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. That silence is not emptiness. It is expectancy. It is listening, alert, tender, surrendered, where grace is recognized. Sit, then, as though you were listening for a presence. Not for syllables, not for a plan, for the feel of grace. The shepherd does not always call your name. Sometimes his nearness is enough to turn the flock. My sheep hear my voice. Hearing, here, is recognition, not audition, an inward, yes, thou art, that has no vocabulary and needs none. Close the lips. Let the tongue rest heavy. Soften the eyes behind the lids. Set the hands in your lap as if you dared not touch the ark with your own cleverness. Breathe as you must, without coaching it. Then adopt the posture of one who receives. Father within, reveal thyself. Whisper at once, at most, inwardly. Then wait. Do not strain for currents. Do not drum the chest for signals. Simply abide in the willingness to be met. Why this posture? Because harmony does not come by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. If the works are of grace, then your place is the receiving end of God. True prayer puts you on the receiving end of God. When you try to manufacture light with thought, you become a man winding a lantern with no oil. When you receive, the oil reveals itself as ever present, and the flame is steady without your fuss. Be very firm, then, in refusing the old labor to make something happen. Replace it with holy attentiveness. You are not creating presence. You are consenting to it. Thoughts will come. Of course they will. Do not fight them. Do not make a project of sweeping the sky. Let them drift like birds that do not know your name. When you notice you have chased one, do not scold. Return to the listening. Return to the altar. A simple inward turning, Father within. Reveal thyself, then quiet again. If the mind insists, but what of the pain? What of the future? Answer it with a bow rather than a brief. God is. Then back to the hush. The first movement of spiritual power is the end of mental noise, not its violent eviction, but its lack of audience. You will find that without your attention, it spends itself and fades. Do not expect pageantry. Expect God. Do not demand scenes. Consent to presence. You can't see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, smell it, or think it. And yet you will know without proof, without fireworks, that the atmosphere is changed. Sometimes the change is a soft weight in the chest, a brightness behind the eyes, a relief in the shoulders, a peace that says nothing yet says all. Sometimes it is simply the absence of hurry. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Liberty from the old doer. Liberty from the courtroom of mental argument. Liberty to rest in I am and let the Father do the works. If, in that resting, a simple action arises, make a call, take a walk, drink water, forgive, notice how it comes, without strain, without drama, without the fear of consequence. The branch abides, the sap chooses its path. Let your life be that abiding. Receptivity is not passivity. It is authorship returned to its author. It is listening until wisdom chooses a word and love chooses a deed. And remember, these three doorways are not rungs to climb and file away as mastered. They are ways of returning again and again to the kingdom within. At dawn, you may enter by inadequacy. I can of my own self do nothing. At noon, by the two-word bell that ends argument, God is. At night, by the quiet that listens without image or plea, be still and know. They are not techniques. They are consents. They do not lead you to achieve. They lead you to recognize. The kingdom is within you. It was there before the thought, before the phrase, before the hush. The doorways simply turn you from the noise to the presence that is. And in that presence, grace accomplishes what effort never could. Now let us enter together. Stop. Stop. Close the lips. Let the teeth meet softly until the tongue remembers humility. Allow the tongue to rest heavy, as if it had nothing to sell. Soften the eyes behind the lids. Let the shoulders drop their armor. Do not organize the breath. Let it come and go as it wills. Withdraw your attention from the inner commentator. Let it put down its pen. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Not a strained silence, a yielded one, not the silence of vacancy, the silence of holy ground. Now, within this hush, yield the doer, silently, without drama, without flourish. Acknowledge, I can of my own self do nothing, not as defeat, as release, as a prisoner laying down a set of keys that never fit. Cease from your own works, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Lay the government from your shoulders onto his. Say it once if you must, then be quiet. Let the sentence fall like a cloak across the mind, making it still. When the impulse to fill the quiet rises, answer it with two words that end the argument. God is. Once. Let it fall into the heart like a seed into good earth. Wait. Do not reach for the next sentence. Again, God is space. Again, God is. 6, perhaps 8 times at most. Unhurried. Each time allowing a longer meadow of listening between the words. If the mind rushes to append, and therefore this will change, and that will happen, smile at it and refuse the footnotes. God is. That is all. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask. You are not persuading the infinite. You are consenting to infinity. Now let the words fall away altogether. Let the lips remain closed. Let the body rest as though it were a chalice, not a tool. Turn inward with one brief inclination. Father within, reveal thyself. Or, if the heart prefers, let me feel thy presence just once, then no more. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and visualize. Not be still and reach for currents. Be still and know, listen, not with the ears, but with the willingness of the heart to be met. For these next moments, 30 seconds, a minute, dwell as the servant who hears the bell before it is rung. My sheep hear my voice. Do not make a voice. Do not call for it. Consent to it. If a thought intrudes, let it pass like a bird across a wide sky, leaving no tracks. If the body offers a report, give it no audience. If memory parades its proofs, do not argue with them. God is. Let everything else take the lower seat. You cannot see this, hear this, taste this, touch this, smell this, or think this into being. You can only yield and find that. It is, notice, perhaps, the softening behind the eyes, the untying of the stomach, the quieting of the hurry. Or notice nothing at all save the absence of argument. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Now, without breaking the hush, let that sentence seal your recognition. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Liberty from the old doer. Liberty from the courtroom of mental pleading. Liberty to rest in I am and let the Father do the works. Gently, without dropping the thread, become aware of the room again, of the chair under you, of the breath moving uncoached. Do not pick up where the noise left off. Carry the hush with you. A few minutes of yielded receptivity can do what hours of mental effort cannot, for grace is efficient where striving is wasteful. As you rise into the next thing, let a simple inward bow remain. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. And if any sentence appears again today, let it be this bell that sends you back to the temple within. God is. Now, having tasted the hush, learn to watch the mind in its subtlest costume. It will not come now with loud denials. It will come with piety, with eagerness, with a clipboard. It will say, wonderful, we have a method. That is the snare. The mind's last trick is to make surrender into a method. It takes a doorway and installs a turnstile. It prints tickets and assigns seats. It measures the minutes and counts the breaths. Stop. Stop. Be wise to it. Keep it spontaneous and receptive, or you will find yourself talking to God about God again and calling it prayer. First misstep, using God is to get a result. The moment you use the two words as leverage, God is, therefore this pain must go. God is, therefore this bill must be paid. The personal doer has climbed back onto the throne with a new robe on. You are bargaining, not bowing. You have smuggled a second power into the room. Result, thou shalt have no other gods before me. God is ends the argument. It does not begin a negotiation. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask. Say it once, say it twice, 6 times at most, not to make something happen, but to let go of all that does not happen in God. Then seal the lips. Be still. Let the presence be its own explanation. Second misstep, fighting thoughts. Some of you, in the name of silence, have become traffic policemen in your own minds, blowing whistles at every passing car. Resistance gives the parade its music. The Master said, resist not evil. Do not wrestle with shadows. Withdraw the lamp that casts them. When thoughts come, give them no hearing. Let them pass as birds across a wide sky, leaving no tracks. If you find yourself in a chase, do not scold. Stop. Stop. Turn again to listening God is, and then back to the hush. Peace, be still, is not shouted at thoughts. It is recognized in the absence of your audience. Third misstep, measuring the session. Did I do it right? Was it deep enough? Did I feel the click? How many minutes? Who told thee thou wast naked? The evaluator is the ego with a ruler in the sanctuary. Judge not, that ye be not judged, applies also to your own prayer. There is no grade for silence. There is no report card for grace. Be very firm in your understanding of your inadequacy as a personal doer, even as a personal prayer. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. 5 honest seconds of surrender are not inferior to 50 minutes of self-conscious effort. Cease from your own works, including the work of evaluation, and let the Spirit bear witness with your spirit, without minutes and without metrics. Fourth misstep, seeking sensations. Some of you leave the choir disappointed because there were no fireworks, no warmth, no tingling, no tears. You have decided ahead of time what peace must feel like. Be careful. The voice that shook the wilderness was followed by a still small voice that shook a prophet to his knees. We walk by faith, not by sight, and often not by feeling either. Blessed are they that have not seen and yet have believed. The presence announces itself as certainty beneath weather, sometimes bright, sometimes plain, often a quiet absence of argument. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty, not necessarily goose flesh. Do not trade liberty for a sensation. What, then, is success in this holy work? Only sincerity, not perfection of method, not length of sitting. Sincerity, the honest return to oneness and receptivity, again and again, without theater, without bargaining. If you notice you have used God is as leverage, smile, bow, begin again. If you catch yourself patrolling thoughts, smile, withdraw interest, begin again. If the evaluator starts grading, dismiss court, begin again. If you chase a feeling, lay down the net, begin again. The shepherd is not counting your stumbles. He is glad for each turn of your face toward home. Acquaint now thyself with him and be at peace. God is one. Be still and know. And in that knowing, without your help, without your schedule, the Father within you doeth the works. Now take this out of the chair and into the street. The kingdom is not a place you visit in meditation. It is the consciousness you return to throughout the day. That return does not require a cushion, a corner, or a closing of the eyes. It requires only a bow, small, sincere, immediate. You can yield in a meeting, in traffic, in conflict, with the phone to your ear and your hands at the wheel. Pray without ceasing does not mean talk without ceasing. It means yield without ceasing. 3 little turns will carry you. First, the inner stop before replying. When a question comes sharp, when criticism stings, when the child shouts or the colleague presses, stop, stop, not a long stop, a breath width. Let your tongue rest behind the teeth. Be swift to hear, slow to speak, slow to wrath. In that single arrested moment, relinquish authorship. I can of my own self do nothing. This is not weakness. It is priesthood. It is refusing to answer from the courtroom of fear. Often, you will find that the first words that would have come are gone, and another tone appears, not rehearsed, not clever, simple and true. A soft answer turneth away wrath. Sometimes no answer is required at all, only the presence of one who has refused to be two. Second, the silent God is before deciding, before you press send, before you sign, before you say yes or no. God is. Once, twice, not to make it right, but to end the argument in your head and open the ear of your heart. Commit thy way unto the Lord. Trust also in him, and he shall bring it to pass. Do not rush to append explanations. Let the 2 words be a bell that sends you to the hush where wisdom already is. If any man lack wisdom, let him ask of God. The asking is this consenting. The receiving is the quiet willingness to be guided. Out of that hush, a step will appear, small, clean, unforced. Take that and leave the theater of consequences to grace. Third, a 10-second listening pause when anxiety surges. You feel the wave rise, the report, the bill, the body. Do not argue. Do not chase it with affirmations. Stop. Count to 10 if you must. In the silence of a servant waiting for the bell, Father within, reveal thyself once, then let the sentence go. In returning and rest is your salvation. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. You are not suppressing fear. You are withdrawing the audience that made it loud. 10 seconds of yielded receptivity can do what 10 minutes of mental wrestling cannot. It lets the presence announce itself as enough. Now apply this in your relationships. Refuse the temptation to fix others mentally. Do not run treatments across the table like invisible pills. Judge not. Behold one presence. God and the practitioner and the patient are all one. When a loved one suffers, your first act is not to picture their improvement. It is to yield your sense of being a second power on the scene. God is. Let that be the atmosphere in which you sit with them, speak with them, walk with them. Often you will find the line you wanted to say becomes fewer words. Sometimes a touch replaces a sermon. Sometimes you say nothing, and the room fills with a peace that needs no interpreter. Apply it also where supply and health stories clamor. Do not try to demonstrate a thing. Forget supply. Acquaint now thyself with him, and be at peace. Seek first the kingdom, and all these things are added as effect, not as prize. Stand before the bill, the symptom, the calendar, and make the same 3 micro yields. Stop. I can of my own self do nothing. God is. Listen. In that listening, you will know what belongs to you to do today and what belongs to grace. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. My grace is sufficient for thee. Harmony arrives where a second power is dismissed. And remember, you are not alone in this returning. Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them. Oneness is not a private achievement. United consciousness lifts the individual. If you share a home, a workplace, a city, with even one who consents to the one, let that be a covenant of quiet. A minute before the meeting, both of you stop. God is. After the call, both of you listen 10 seconds before the postmortem. If there are 10 righteous in a city, the city is blessed. If there are 2 righteous in an office, the office breathes easier. Carry each other, not by words, but by recognition. Let your companionship be an altar where speech is fewer and presence is more. All day long. Then return. Little bows, little hushes. Stop, stop. God is. Be still. And know not to retire from life, but to let life be authored where it belongs. As you go, let this be your unseen habit. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. And you will find that without your clamor, without your schedule, the kingdom within travels with you, and as you on the road, at the desk, in the kitchen, at dusk, lo, I am with you always. For those who are willing to prove this, here is a container small enough to be faithful and large enough to be real. 7 days, 2 sittings each day, morning and evening, 4 minutes each sitting. That is all. Not a retreat, not an ordeal, a covenant of quiet, discipline without formula. For 7 days, we will not attempt to scale heaven with our thoughts. We will consent to the presence that is. Where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, there am I in the midst of them. Even across distance, united consciousness has weight. If 10 of you keep this covenant, a hush will go forth beyond your houses. If 100, a city will breathe easier. Here is your 4-minute shape, precisely because the mind likes to sprawl. Minute 1, stop, stop, sit, close the lips, let the teeth meet softly. Allow the tongue to rest as if it had nothing to sell. Take your hands off the machinery of breath. Refuse the inner commentator its opening statement. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. You are not performing, you are arresting the performance. If a plea rises later, if a verse crowds in later, this first minute is the end of vain repetition, the cessation of mental traffic. Minute 2, I can of my own self do nothing. Say it once within, not as shame, but as priesthood. The Father within me doeth the works. Be very firm in your understanding of your own inadequacy as a personal doer, for that firmness is the doorway to sufficiency. Lay the government from your shoulders upon his, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. Rest 1 minute in this release, as though setting down a heavy suitcase you were never asked to carry. Minute 3, God is. Twice, 4 times, 6 times at most. Unhurried, spaced, no footnotes, no bargaining. God is, and let it fall like a bell that sends you to chapel, not a drum that rouses soldiers. As you speak the 2 words, let every other power take the lower seat. Fear, timeline, symptom, bill. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask. This is not a lever. It is consent to the fact beneath all facts. When the urge to hitch a promise to it arises, smile, bow, and keep the 2 words pure. Minute 4, listening receptivity. Be still and know that I am God. Not be still and visualize. Not be still and plan. Whisper once. Father within, reveal thyself. Then hush. Let the heart wait like a servant who hears the bell before it is rung. My sheep hear my voice. Do not make a voice. Do not call for one. Abide in the willingness to be met. In quietness and in confidence shall be your strength. If peace appears as the absence of argument, that is enough. Now, a vow for these 7 days, no affirmations. Not as condemnation of anyone's path, but as an experiment in yielding rather than mental causation. If the habit to fix, to decree, to arrange by thought arises, and it will do not wrestle, do not shame, stop, withdraw the audience, return to the 4 minutes, or if you are in traffic, to a 4-breath hush. Resist not evil, refuse to feed it. You will discover you do not need to push a river that already flows. Each evening, 1 line in a journal, not analysis, not a report card, only this. Where did I feel tempted to use thought as power today? Write the moment, close the book, and release it. Cast all your care upon him, for he careth for you. Do not linger to improve the entry. Lay it on the altar and leave no forwarding address. And because oneness multiplies strength, meet each other in a single phrase. Each day of these 7, let your only public word be, God is. Not testimonies, not results, not cleverness, just that shared remembrance. Where 2 or 3 are gathered in that name, there he is in the midst. If there are 10 righteous in a city, the city is spared. If there are 1,000 voices across the world consenting to one power, a weather of peace gathers where no algorithm can measure it. 7 days, 2 sittings, 4 minutes. A short, faithful yielding that breaks the addiction to technique and reopens receptivity to grace in returning and rest is your salvation. Do not wait to be ready. Be willing. Begin tonight in the chair you have, with the breath you have, with the life you have. God is one. God is. Be still and know. Beloved, let this be said plainly, quietly, finally. God is one. Therefore, the kingdom is not built by thought. It is revealed when the personal doer yields, not by might, nor by power, but by my spirit, saith the Lord. As long as you believe there is power in a better thought, you are far from the kingdom. As long as you hope to climb to God on the ladder of your mind, the ladder lengthens and the horizon recedes. But when you consent simply, honestly, to the presence already within, the veil thins and the heart knows the kingdom of God is within you. Now a question, and let it do its work. If God is present, what are you waiting for the mind to accomplish? Shall a sharper phrase usher in omnipresence, who by taking thought can add a cubit to his stature, make one white hair black, summon spirit with syllables? You can't see it, hear it, taste it, touch it, smell it, or think it into being. You can only stop. Stop. Cease from your own works. Yield the author's chair. Let the Father within do the works. When you stop arranging, the already is announces itself as sufficiency. My grace is sufficient for thee. The doorways remain open, not as methods, but as living invitations. First, inadequacy. I can of my own self do nothing. Be very firm in your understanding of this, for it is the humility that breaks the idol of 2 powers and lays the government upon his shoulder. Second, the 2-word treatment. God is. Not to get something, not to bargain, but to end the argument and let every lesser claim take the lower seat. God is. That is all. Third, receptivity. Be still. and know that I am God. Not be still and visualize. Not be still and plan. Be still and know. Listen as a servant who hears the bell before it is rung. These are not steps to master. They are consents to return. At dawn, at noon, at night, in a corridor, in a storm return. And now a final practical seal. Tonight, before sleep, do not pray for outcomes. Do not press your petitions through the dark. Sit on the edge of the bed or sink into the pillow and take 4 minutes for presence alone. First minute, stop. Stop. Close the lips. Let the tongue rest. The Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence before him. Second minute within. Once. I can of my own self do nothing. The Father within me doeth the works. Lay the day down. Third minute, God is. Twice. 4 times. Unhurried. No footnotes. Fourth minute, be still. And know. Whisper once if you must, Father within. Reveal thyself. Then hush. Your Father knoweth what things ye have need of before ye ask. Leave the needs to grace. Leave yourself to God. And as you incline to sleep, anchor identity where it cannot be shaken. As long as God is, I am. Not by the breath, not by the pulse, but by the I that is one with I am. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is liberty. Liberty from fear's theater. Liberty from the mind's devices. Liberty to rest in the sufficiency of presence. The Lord is my shepherd. I shall not want. It is your Father's good pleasure to give you the kingdom. Do not strive to enter a place. Consent to a presence. Do not wait for tomorrow's better mind. Yield now to the one mind that is, God is one. God is, be still and know. And in that knowing, without your help, without your schedule, the works that belong to grace will appear in their season, and you will find, quietly and truly, that the kingdom was never achieved. It was recognized.